We have started discussing who is an addict. One aspect of our addiction was our inability to deal with life on life's terms, meaning we could not face life as life is. We tried to run away, to escape, to avoid problems, to not face our emotional problems, to not face our spiritual problems. We were emotionally bankrupt and we could not face life as life is. We lost someone, we had to deal with the loss of a family member or loss of a friend or loss of a job or loss of a spouse or divorce or whatever it was. And we just could not accept it as it is and deal with it in a healthy way. And the first thing that we would do when things like that happen is that we would go and buy drugs and use to try to escape our problems. We tried drugs and combination of drugs to cope with a seemingly hostile world, and that's how we felt. We felt that this is a cruel world and this world is hostile and we just could not bear it. It was a heavy yoke, and we thought that by using drugs, we could run away from all of this and find pleasure and desire and fulfill our addiction. We dreamed of finding a magic formula that would solve our ultimate problem, and that is ourselves. We did not know ourselves, first of all. And second of all, we had something that we call self-hate. We hated ourselves. We hated who we were. We hated how we were formed. We hated how we were created. We hated everything. We hated ourselves. We had no self-love. We had low self-esteem. We rejected ourselves. We lacked confidence. We had a negative image of ourselves. The fact that we could not use any mind-altering or mood-changing substance, including marijuana and alcohol. Let's touch on this issue for a second. Alcohol is a drug. Marijuana is a drug. And that is the truth. And if you live in a false sense of belief that marijuana and alcohol are okay, as long as I don't touch hard drugs and just play with those drugs, everything will be okay and everything will work out, you are sadly mistaken. Because alcohol is a drug. That is why we have something to which we call AA. And a person that's recovering from drug addiction cannot drink alcohol, not even a glass of wine. You have no idea how many people in the 6 years I've been in recovery that I know that have relapsed and have left the rooms because of alcohol. So you cannot drink alcohol. And you cannot put your hand up for 60 days clean, 80 days clean, 90 days clean, 1 year clean if you're still drinking alcohol. To be in recovery, you need to be clean and sober from each and every single drug. It has to be pure sobriety. And marijuana, even if it's been legalized, it's still a drug. And if you're smoking marijuana, it's called a relapse. You need to be sober, you need to be clean, and you need to be able to face life on life's terms. And you need to be able to cope with everything that happens in your life without you running away and without you having to use substance abuse to escape your problems. Drugs cease to make us feel good. Now, what usually happens in the life of an addict, and I know this happened in my life as well, is that when I started using, it was a social thing that we do on weekends for fun with friends and things like that. And it grows and it progresses into a place where I was a lonely person and I did not want to have any friends with me, and I isolated and I wanted to be by myself. And that's what drugs want to do to you. They want to get you to a point where you're all alone, hopeless, miserable, pitiful. And it gets you to a point where you're not actually using for fun or for enjoyment or for excitement. You just want to use because you have to and you have no choice. At times we were defensive about our addiction and justified our right to use, especially when you had legal prescription. Now, let's get into another issue as well. Prescription medication, over the counter that you can buy at Discount or at Clicks or some type of pharmacy. And we talk about things like grandpa and Panados and sleeping pills and waking up pills and cough mixtures and all these things. If you're still addicted to things like that, you are an addict. Just because what you use is legal does not make you not an addict. So even if you are addicted to prescription pills, and you cannot cope and live life without them, antidepressants, anxiety pills, all these things, you're an addict. So don't think that because they pills that are prescribed by doctors makes you not an addict. It makes you an addict. So if you're on pills like that, you need to stop. Because I know of a woman, very elderly old woman, that died of that addiction. We were proud of sometimes the illegal and often bizarre behaviors that type before are using. We were proud of how much I can use. I remember how I used to brag up how much I can smoke and how much I can drink and how much I used last night and how crazy and insane I was and how I dealt and did not get caught and how I was about to get caught. And when there was a drug bust at school, how I was able to manipulate and not get caught. And I thought that made me the man. That made me a loser. And that is what we call often bizarre behaviors. We forgot about the times when we settle in and consumed by fear and self-pity. One of the things that happens when someone walks into the room is the addiction is very good at making you forget the bad, hard times that the drug addiction took you. It only reminds you of the good, nice days that it offered you. But it often makes you forget the misery that it brought along with it. And as an addict in recovery, always remember and always keep in mind the bad, hard times. Do not forget those bad days that brought you into recovery, because I guarantee you, it's not the good days that brought you into the rooms. We fall into a pattern of selective thinking, only remembering what we wanted to remember. Like I said, you only want to remember the good days, the fun times, the Desert News Cafe and H2O and at the clubs and Santon Sit and all these nonsensical places that people go to. We only want to remember those good days when your girlfriend was happy with you and your parents were happy with you. But always remember the bad times, the days when you could not score, the days where you could not get, the days where you did not have any money to go get. Remember those days and try to avoid selective thinking. We only remember the good drug experiences. We justified and rationalized the things that we did to keep them being sick and going crazy. We ignored the times when life seemed to be a nightmare. And if you'll be honest with me, you know that half of the life of an addict is a nightmare. I mean, I remember those days when I wanted to commit suicide. And if you are anything like me, you probably have tried and attempted to commit suicide. You've tried to take your own life before. Remember days like that. Because a lot of people do die because life does become a nightmare. And if you don't work a program and come into the program and find recovery and change your way of thinking and change your way of living and change your friends, because you cannot work a program and still hang around with your old using friends. You're going to have to cut your friends out. You have to get rid of those places, those clubs, bars, taverns, all these places. You have to get rid of them. You have to get rid of the old friends. You have to get rid of that old way of living. That's what it means to be a recovering addict. Otherwise, your life will continue to be a nightmare. We avoided the reality of our addiction. And that's one thing we cannot do, is to live in denial. We have to face the reality of our addiction. We have to face the place that addiction has taken us to. Higher mental and emotional functions such as conscious and the ability to love were sharply affected by our use of drugs, meaning emotionally and mentally we were dead. We had no ability to love. We harmed people and could not see it and could not fathom it, and we felt no shame, no sorry, no nothing for anybody. We were monsters. We were worse than Hitler. And if you properly do your step 1 and step 4 and step 6, you will see yourself as you truly are. We were constantly searching for the answer, that person, place, or thing. Oh, I remember how I used to think, oh, maybe if I change place, if I move from Bryanston to Santon, if I move from Four Ways to this neighborhood, it's because of this neighborhood. It's because I'm single. As soon as I get a girlfriend, I'll stop. It's because of that friend, Delano. Or it's because of that friend, Michael or Zach. If I stop hanging around with him, all will be well. Our spirit was broken. Now, when we talk about rock bottom, that was my rock bottom. It wasn't the fact that I lost anything or I lost somebody or I was kicked out of the house or I was poor. I had a broken spirit. I was spiritually and emotionally bankrupt, and I wanted a different way of living. The capacity to feel human was lost. This seems extreme, but many of us have been in that state. And if you are anything like me, you know for a fact that you have been there. And we lacked the ability to cope with daily life. Everything became a struggle: to wake up, to take a shower, to brush your teeth, to eat, to do things that normal people, non-addicts do. We were failing to do such things. We were failing to come to work on time. We were failing to do the things that we need to do as human beings. Now I'll close up with this. As our addiction progressed, many of us found ourselves in institutions, in and out of jail, rehab centers, and things like that. And then we know that we have a problem. And if we do not stop this, we will most surely end up dead. I wish you nothing but sobriety. I hope you get yourself to a meeting. May you call your sponsor. May your God of your understanding help you. Take up service position. Stay clean. Stay sober. Change your life. More than anybody else, I want you to change. Be the difference in the world. The success rate of recovery is 5%. Make sure you're part of that 5%. Make sure you do not become a parable of someone who died from not working the program. God has given you a gift of recovery. May you use it to the best of your ability.